and mystery in the Australian outback.
He said, put your head down and your hands behind your back. And then he put a gun to my head.
Joanne Lees' own exclusive story.
I was just screaming for Pete. I just thought at any moment Pete's just going to come and save me.
1 year on, and has the trail gone cold?
I just kept thinking, oh my God, I'm going to die. This is over. It's the end of my life.
Good evening. It's just over a year since British backpacker Joanne Lees endured the most terrifying night of her life. Driving in the remote Australian outback, she and her boyfriend were attacked by a gunman. Joanne escaped, but her boyfriend, Peter Falconio, has not been seen since. What happened to him remains a mystery. The only account of what happened that night is that given to police by Joanne herself. And in the only interview she's ever given, Joanne Lees spoke to Martin Bashir.
The Australian outback, desolate, mysterious, and the setting for a terrifying story. A crazed gunman. A baffling and disturbing attack. A miraculous escape. A strange disappearance. And just one witness. Joanne Lees met Peter Falconio 6 years ago at a nightclub in their hometown of Huddersfield. In November 2000, they put their careers on hold and set off on a round-the-world trip. Just over a year ago, they bought a camper van in Sydney and set out on a long journey through the Australian outback. On the 14th of July, Joanne Lees and Peter Falconio packed their camper van here at Alice Springs and prepared for the most arduous leg of their Australian journey. This would be the last major town for over 1,000 miles as they headed north towards Darwin. And they would make this journey in almost total isolation. They had just each other and their trusted camper van.
You'd been travelling together now at this point for something like 8 months. How would you describe your relationship at this point?
Our relationship, I'd describe it stronger than ever. We just got each other.
Had you ever spent so much time alone with Peter? Because you were travelling, you were sleeping, you were eating, you were living together. Had you ever spent so much time with Peter before then?
Probably not, no. This is what I was looking forward to the most though, spending every minute with each other.
Some people might feel perhaps claustrophobic, you know, if they were thrown together with someone all day and all night. Did you ever feel that?
No. Even though we were travelling together, living and sleeping together, we still took time out to do our own thing. It
was suggested in a newspaper, I think, that you'd had a blazing row in Alice Springs. Was there any truth in that?
No, none whatsoever.
When they left Alice Springs on the 14th of July last year, Joanne and Peter were headed into a desolate and unpopulated wilderness.
As I was driving, I looked in my mirror and could see that Peter was asleep. Drove into a very small community called Tea Tree. Saw that there was a petrol station and I lay by and I decided to stop. Pete woke up and we had coffee and we did watch the sunset. It was very spectacular.
The couple filled up with petrol. Peter took over the driving as they headed north.
As you drove along the highway, did you see many vehicles?
Hardly any. I remember Pete even commenting that there's not many vehicles past at all. There was one incident that happened, don't know if it was ever reported, but just as we were leaving Tea Tree, there was a fire that led onto the road. Pete avoided it, swerved to avoid it, and drove past. He stopped 50 metres away and said, should we go back and put that fire out? I really think we should. And I just said no. I just got a really strange feeling about that. I just felt, I can't explain it, just had a bad feeling about that.
What happens next?
I'm not sure exactly of the time, but it was pitch black. There was headlights behind us. Pete slowed down. He said to me, I wish this car would just overtake us. After a few minutes, the car drove alongside us. Both looked into the vehicle and we could see a man and his dog. The man was pointing at the back of our vehicle and motioning us to stop.
What did he look like?
He looked age 40 plus. He looked like a local man, I would say. It was a 4-wheel drive utility truck.
When you pulled up, did the individual get out and come to your vehicle?
Pete met him halfway. The vehicle parked behind our vehicle. Pete went to the back of our vehicle and the mum was there waiting for Pete.
Why didn't you get out?
Pete told me to wait there. It was cold. I was just in shorts and a t-shirt. Pete took his cigarettes, went, had a chat with the man. He came back. He asked me to rev the engine. I sat in the driver's seat, moved across from the passenger seat. He said he reassured me that everything was okay. The door was open ajar. I heard him talking to the man. All seemed amicable, joking. I could hear Pete saying, "Cheers, mate. Thanks for stopping." Just seemed all friendly.
And while you were sitting in the front and Peter was at the back, were you looking in the rearview mirror to see if you could catch another glimpse of the man?
Yeah, I saw him again, very clearly. We made eye contact. He looked at me. I can't explain it. It just made me feel a little uncomfortable.
Joanne started to rev the engine. It was the last time she would ever see Peter.
I heard a bang. I automatically thought, oh, it's the exhaust. Stopped revving the engine. Turned to look round. The man was stood outside the driver's door. I saw the gun in his hand, pointing it at me. He started to open the door. He asked me to switch the engine off and to move over across to the passenger side. He said, put your head down and your hands behind your back, which at first I didn't do. Then he said again, put your head down and your hands behind your back, and then he put a gun to my head. And that's when I thought, I'm going to have to do as he tells me. He tied my hands together. He tied them behind my back using 4 cable ties. So there was one around each wrist and then 2 in the middle, joining them.
So although they were tied together, there was a bit of space.
Yeah. I was just screaming for Pete. I just thought at any moment Pete is just going to come and save me.
So you're shrieking?
Yeah.
And what is he saying in answer to that?
He just pushes me out of the car then, onto the ground. At that point I am just so angry. He's trying to tie my legs together and I just won't let him. I just kick and kick and kick and he can't do that. I think because of that he just got really mad and he hit me.
Where did he hit you?
Just the side of my face.
What was your reaction to that?
I was stunned and I just kept thinking, oh my god, I'm gonna die. Where is Pete? I just kept thinking, okay, this is over. It's the end of my life. He drags me or lifts me up and he tries to put tape across my mouth. swing my head around and move it around, and it just goes around my neck and in my hair. He walked me towards his vehicle, and he just pulled me and grabbed me and pushed me into the back of his vehicle, which had some kind of bed in there. Once he put me in there, he went round the side of his vehicle, and well, I don't know what he was doing, but he was distracted from me. I kept shouting to him, "What have you done to Pete? Where is Pete? Is he hurt?" He told me to shut up or he'd kill me. Then it crossed my mind about being raped, that he wanted to rape me, and I asked him. And again, he just told me to shut up.
Left alone in the back of the attacker's truck, she decided to make a desperate attempt to escape.
I just thought, this is it, this is my chance, I'm going. And I just slid down the truck, down the base of the truck, jumped out and just ran into the bush.
Could you see anything?
Couldn't see anything. I tripped up a few times. I just crawled into a bush and hid. I heard his footsteps crunching the branches, and I saw the torch.
You saw the torch?
Yeah.
How close?
Very close. He came past me 3 or 4 times. Shone the torch above me in the trees.
Joanne eventually heard her attacker drive away in the camper van.
Thought he's leaving, he's going. But then I heard him come back.
In the same vehicle?
On foot.
What are your feelings at that point?
I was just thinking, is this ever going to end? That's what I thought. Thought that he's going to be so mad when he finds me. And he's really determined to find me. After a while then I heard the vehicle drive away. I really wanted to come out, but I didn't know what to do, so I thought best to just stay there. Hidden me really well, and I felt safe in my little hiding place.
Joanne stayed hidden for hours until eventually she decided to try to stop a truck to get help for Peter.
I just kept plucking up courage, and said the next one that drives past, I'm going to stop. And a road train came. I let it come very near to me, then I got out of the grass. I ran alongside it, and I thought it wasn't going to stop. But then he did.
The driver took Joanne to the nearby Barrow Creek Hotel and called police. A huge operation began. Roadblocks were set up across the Northern Territories. An e-fit of the suspect was produced. Forensic teams discovered a pool of blood on the Stewart Highway. Later they found the camper van hidden a distance away in the bush. Despite one of the biggest manhunts ever launched in the Northern Territory, the police didn't find the body of Peter Falconio, nor any kind of weapon that might have been used to kill him. And although she was the only witness to the attack, Joanne Lees was remarkably reluctant to make any kind of public appeal for help. With no body, no weapon, and no suspect, attention started to focus on Joanne Lees herself, and in particular, the story of her miraculous escape.
Ever since the incident, there has been media pressure to gain access to the survivor of the attack, Joanne Lees. It was left to Peter Falconio's brother, Paul, to read out a statement from Joanne Lees.
Anybody in Australia or anywhere, if you've seen anything or you know of any information, if you could come forward. This is from myself, Joanne, and both our families.
Joanne refused to talk to the press about the attack. The less she spoke, the more intense became the media scrutiny, and rumour fed on rumour, leading to the ultimate question. Coming up next.
The question that everybody would want me to ask you.
Okay.
Everybody would want me to ask you this question for the avoidance of any doubt. And I ask you, did you kill Peter?
By the time Joanne Lees agreed to speak to the press, speculation was at fever pitch. But Joanne's appearance did nothing to dampen the speculation. She refused to answer any questions related to the crime itself, and instead turned on the media.
I've got a problem with all press that distort the truth and doubt my story, misquote me, and making up false accusations and stories.
With Joanne Lees refusing to speak publicly, the media began to piece together elements of her story drawn from police briefings and other sources. Trouble was, parts of the story just didn't seem to add up. For example, she said that her hands were tied behind her back. But the truckers who found her by this road say that they found her with her hands in front of her body. Just one of a number of inconsistencies the media focused on.
Did you tell the police about the way you'd been bound?
Told them the truth.
That your hands had been tied behind your back?
Yeah.
When the truckers found you, they say your hands were in front of your body?
They were, because while I was in the bush and I heard the man drive up in the vehicle the first time, I brought them to the front of my body.
A police source at the time said this would require, and I quote, the flexibility of a contortionist.
Yeah. Well, we read that, me and Paul Falconio read that as well. A ballet dancer, a trained ballet dancer of 12 years could not possibly carry out that act. And me and Paul just performed that. We did that. Yeah.
There were other inconsistencies. Though there should have been 3 sets of footprints at the scene, no footprints other than Joanne Lees were found.
Are you aware that the police say they could only find your footprints?
Yeah. As far as I'm aware, they only found 2 of my footprints, and that was in my hiding place.
But they did find your footprints, but nobody else's?
Yeah. But in the whole crime scene, they only found 2 of my footprints, and they were when I was hidden underneath the bush. The ground wasn't something, it was branches, wasn't hard, solid ground at all.
Notwithstanding the terrain and the branches and the grass, and I understand that, how is it possible that the police are able to locate 2 of your footprints, and you're not particularly heavy, and nobody else's?
No idea.
That wasn't all. Though police found blood on the ground, no blood seems to have been found on the back of the camper van.
There was no blood and there were no particles at the back of the vehicle.
Not that I'm aware of.
But if he had been shot near the vehicle, and since the blood was on the ground, it suggests he was attacked near the vehicle. Would it be reasonable to think that there might have been some blood on the back of the van?
I guess so, but I'm no expert on bullet wounds and gunshots or anything. I haven't a clue.
Crucially, there is one piece of evidence supporting Joanne's account of what happened. Traces of DNA from a third person are on her shirt.
There was some DNA on your clothing. Was that blood?
Yeah. His blood.
How did the attacker's blood come to be on your clothing?
I don't know for sure. Could be when I was kicking out at him.
Did you see any blood at all on his
No.
body?
None whatsoever.
And yet his blood comes to be on your clothing?
Yeah.
Again, that seems to be a mystery. There is no weapon, there is no gun, there's no body. The attacker's footprints are not found, but yours are. There's Peter's blood on the ground. So some people say the person who murdered Peter was Joanne. What do you say to that?
It's totally untrue.
A question that everybody would want me to ask you.
Okay.
Everybody would want me to ask you this question for the avoidance of any doubt. And I ask you, did you kill Peter Falconio?
No.
Have you any idea who did?
No.
The police have always said they completely believe Joanne's version of events that fateful night.
This woman's gone through a hell of a lot. So are we supportive of her? Of course we are. Is she a victim of crime? Of course she is. Do we believe her? Yes, we do.
There's been criticism of the police investigation. A day after the attack, police found this CCTV footage recorded at a truck stop in Alice Springs, which shows a man bearing a resemblance to the E-Fit. Yet the video was not released until 3 weeks later, and the man has not come forward. A year on, and with no body and no suspect, speculation is still rife. 2 weeks ago, police called a press conference to put a stop to recent rumours.
There's no evidence to suggest or indicate an insurance scam. There's certainly allegations of one, but nothing to support an insurance scam.
I just keep thinking, if Pete was here, or if he was found tomorrow alive, he'd be just so mad at the treatment that I've had.
Why would he be so mad?
Because he knows the truth and I know the truth, and I guess it is hard for people to believe. But that's how it happened.
Can you tell me what Peter was like as a person?
It's really difficult to talk about Pete. Before I start crying, he's the nicest person I've ever met.
The disappearance and probable death of Peter Falconio remains shrouded in mystery. The police have no significant new leads, and unless there's a major breakthrough, then it seems unlikely that the Australian Outback will ever give up the secret of what has become of Peter Falconio.
Joanne Lees talking to Martin Bashir in an interview we first broadcast in March this year. Australian police have now begun to scale down their hunt for Peter Falconio's killer. They've also completely refuted suggestions that Peter may have faked his own death. Coming up next Monday, the courage of Kirsty, the remarkable story of Kirsty Howard, and how she became the new girl in the life of David Beckham.
I just met this amazing little girl, and we're going to have to, help her or do what we can.
There aren't many young ladies who I would allow to hold hands with my husband.
But she loves him and he thinks that she's absolutely fantastic.
That's next Monday at 8 o'clock on ITV1. But that's all we have time for tonight. So enjoy the rest of the evening, and thank you for watching.